Hello and welcome to the Drexel interview. I'm your host, Paula Marantz Cohen, speaking to you from my office as Dean of the Pannoni Honors College at Drexel University. Today my guest is Garry Kasparov, the #1 ranked chess player in the world for 20 years until his retirement in 2005. He ran for president of Russia against Vladimir Putin in 2007, but was unsurprisingly not allowed to appear on the ballot. He then went on to succeed Václav Havel as chairman of the Human Rights Foundation. He's the author of How Life Imitates Chess, and more recently, Winter is Coming: Why Vladimir Putin and the Enemies of the Free World Must Be Stopped. Garry Kasparov, welcome to the Drexel interview.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it is a thrill for me to have you on this show. I have long admired you, and I know so many people that think of you as a hero who are very much dedicated to chess and human rights. But I want to start with your chess career and talk to you a little bit about its beginnings and how it was that you realized, or it was realized, that you were a chess prodigy. At what point was it discovered that you had this unusual talent?
I think it's quite hard to recollect all these key moments in my childhood. I mean, nobody was there with a Twitter account just to say, this is the moment. Garry learned how to play chess, watching his parents trying to solve a chess puzzle. Garry, beat other members of the family. Garry, had first success at age, 8 or 9 in the Pioneer Palace in Baku in the chess section there. But I think it was quite obvious for members of my family and for my first chess instructors that I had a huge talent, and I felt very comfortable with the game of chess. It's just like a match made in heaven. So I could sit at the chessboard, learn about chess moves on my own, and reading books, and I didn't have to be pushed, just to do something, related to chess, because there was kind of demand from.
Were you from a chess family? Were your parents playing? Was it in the air in that sense?
My parents were engineers, so they knew how to move the pieces. But they had some interest for the game of chess, as many families in the Soviet Union. But it was purely on an amateur's basis.
It's a fascinating subject for me, how something like a game like that would click with a child at a certain age, and they would know or love to play the game.
I think we all have something inside, that needs this defining moment. I believe that talent is spread evenly everywhere, but you just have to find what kind of activity does fit this very child, and if you are lucky, you find it instantly. If you're not, it could take time, and you may never find it. In Russia, in the Soviet Union, it was the Soviet Union when you were playing chess, and now, still, chess is considered a sport. It's referred to as a sport, and it has huge prestige. And I wonder why you think it is that that's the case in Russia and not so much here in this country. Oh, let's be very specific. We're talking about the Soviet Union, not Russia.
Not Russia now.
No, of course. In Putin's Russia, anything related to intellect is not respected anymore.
So there has been a decline in the prestige of chess in Russia?
It was a decline in respect for intellect. Let's put it, just on a broader basis. Now, you mentioned sport.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, because the Soviet authorities, the communist regime, saw no benefits in promoting chess for education, where I believe, you can also find great values in helping kids, to meet the challenges of modern education. But promoting chess as a sport and having millions of kids to go through this very wide network of competitions, seminars, chess sections. Finding the best talents was very important for the system, for the communist system, in its intellectual opposition to the free world. But I think it actually goes all the way back to the early days of the Soviet regime, so late 20s and 30s. I think the Bolsheviks, they wanted the country to be more educated, and alongside with, of course, the horrors of the terror, there was an attempt to bring masses into sort of intellectual activities. And chess immediately received, huge support from the state, and it helped to create create a generation of the great players. I was, led by my great teacher, the first Soviet world champion, called Patriarch of Soviet Chess, Mikhail Botvinnik, who was, just under patronage of Stalin and Politburo. And eventually they discovered, the Soviet communist leaders, they discovered that, by having great chess champions, could help them in a confrontation with the free world, because chess has been always associated with intellect, with this intellectual power, and having the world champion, or not only just one great player but many great players, and beating on a regular basis the opposition from the free world, that was a very powerful ideological trump in their hands.
Bobby Fischer, I have to ask you some questions. That's the figure in America that we know. Did you ever play him?
No, I never met him.
You never met him?
Yeah, I met him. I was 9 when he won the title in 1972, and then he's gone. So, and we never met. And
is that a regret of yours?
Yes and no, because Bobby Fischer was, he represented, the greatest moment of U.S. chess history, and probably this is chess history period, and also the greatest tragedy, because the man was not in his mind. So he's so out of this world, and his behavior, after he won the title, was very damaging for the game of chess, for the image of the game of chess. He could have changed the image of the game to bring it to the mainstream in this country and in the free world single-handedly. In 1972, he was the biggest hero of all. His demise, was just, the great
bad for chess.
It was really bad for chess, because, it's anytime, the name Fischer appears, but he was a great chess player, but he was mad, he made some horrible anti-Semitic statements, he ended up, in exile, he violated American law, so it's...
Okay. You had a famous and long-running rivalry with Anatoly Karpov. And that 1984 World Championship, of course, was legendary. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you've written about this at length. Were you friendly with Karpov? What do you think of his style of play? What did you think of that extraordinary match when you look back at it?
The match, probably, all these matches, 5 matches, they have set up the foundation for modern chess. So it started many new openings, and if you ask, younger players, most of them, knew very little about chess history before our matches.
Because of its visibility and its length.
It's visibility, but also you had 2 great players fighting for so many years, and it's, for each match we had to come up with new ideas,
Why did you win? You were better?
Okay, I think it's what, if you look at all these matches, they were all were very, very close, very close. But I always managed to win the last game. I think I could manage to play under pressure. So, and it's when match reached the climax, the last game, win or lose, I always prevailed.
And he was the more conservative player. You were the more aggressive player.
Yes, it's, I would say, more strategic. So just, he wanted to play. It's a more quiet, chess, not so sharp. It's, you may say, fire and ice. And I managed to actually, force him to play more on my territory. So that was probably the secret of success. So it's Karpov couldn't find the right algorithm. So I could also say that I was 12 years younger, so that's why it was my time to win. But at the end of the day, it was about my success in dragging him to my territory, so to spend more time on my territory.
And you controlled the game.
Well, it's not just control, but it's when you reach the sort of the climax of the game, especially under time pressure, and you don't have, you have just a few minutes to make, the crucial decision. What is important is that you feel comfortable with the position, so your gut feelings, will help you to make the move with your fingers, so just without even calculating everything. So that's why if the nature of the position fits your character, so it helps you. So I managed to have more positions that were beneficial for my character, and Karpov failed to do the same.
You also played Deep Blue, the computer program to play chess, and lost to that computer.
No, it's not.
And I know you protest the result.
No,
Tell me about that.
We're in Philadelphia. Actually, in this city, I won. Actually, they haven't retired the computer because it was not a chess computer. It was a very successful project of parallel processors. And they managed to build a very powerful machine, a brute force of calculation, which, again, was not a chess computer. So today, you can buy a chess engine and put on your PC or even your laptop, and it will be most likely will be stronger than Deep Blue because it doesn't make so many moves per second. So that is, Deep Blue could reach something like 200 million positions per second. Today, the machines will do probably 6 to 8 million, but they understand, quote unquote.
You retired from chess in 2005.
Yes.
And then went on to become, and are now, very involved with politics and with human rights.
Yeah,
Let's put it that
way. I would also say political activities, human rights, because the moment you say politics in this country or in Canada or in Europe, people think, oh, it's a political campaign, fundraising, registering political parties, debates, elections. It's all fake in Putin's Russia. I always said that we were not trying to win elections, we were trying to have elections. So we were trying to make statements, we were trying to restore democratic institutions in Russia and to force government to respect human rights.
Well, you did run or tried to run for president of Russia. Did you know from the get-go that it was an impossibility?
Of course, it's everything we did there. Was just to make a statement. You try to put your name on the ballot, but it happened that I couldn't even rent a hall in Moscow to have my supporters to actually sign the petition. And when I did, just the day before the meeting, the owner of the hall said, oh, technical reasons, no, you couldn't do that. Next day, he had a Putin stooge doing the same procedure in this hall. So it's hard to imagine for people in this country that, it's the democracy could be just, wiped out while keeping, the window, but the whole
facade.
Procedure. Yeah, the facade, yes.
In your book, Winter is Coming, you describe so well the way, I guess it's gradual or the duplicitous way in which the West was made to feel that democracy was coming to Russia, and that you yourself, even in the beginning, had hopes for Putin. And then, though you also call yourself sort of Cassandra-like in recognizing before others what a disaster he in fact was. Can you tell us at what point you recognized what was happening and why the West didn't and has refused to see it?
Oh, it's out of convenience, complacency. So nobody wanted to recognize the problem was there, because if you recognize the problem, you have to act. And acting against Russia could be acting against the interests of local businesses. I mean, this from Germany, America, France, you name it, and also would create a problem, a geopolitical problem. So you'd rather, that was I guess it was the conventional wisdom for the leaders of the free world in the first and second Putin's terms. That dealing with Putin inside would be more helpful than confronting him outside of this tent.
And the term you use, of course, and the evocation of Nazi Germany is appeasement. That this was
it came later, So you had to see the signs, and the first sign for me was the spring of 2000. Putin, as just newly elected president of Russia, basically appointed by Yeltsin because nobody could oppose him, he decided to restore Soviet anthem. It's why? The Soviet anthem, it's for people who were born and raised in the Soviet Union, that was the clear signal. That's about his dreams. This is kind of, the Freudist sentiment. So he wanted the restoration. And when Putin attacked the tiny Republic of Georgia, in 2008, what proof, what else you needed just to understand his true intentions? And unfortunately, the newly sworn President Barack Obama and his Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, they rewarded Putin's regime after this invasion with a reset button, with a new policy, the sunshine policy. And of course, Putin, as every dictator, he thought that was a demonstration of weakness. And this is something that people in the West, they forgot the lessons of history, and they don't understand that the way dictators see the world, is quite different. It's not like from our eyes. They never ask why. They always ask why not. And if you offer them an opportunity to fill the vacuum, they'll grab it.
You mentioned some of the heroes of democracy and human rights in your book, and I feel that there were three that stand out. The American president, Ronald Reagan, the first president of the Czech Republic, Václav Havel, and you have succeeded him as the president of the Human Rights Foundation, which is quite extraordinary, and the Russian punk rock band Pussy Riot. These are very different individuals, groups. Could you tell us a little bit about what it is that you find so admirable, heroic, important about these three figures?
Yeah, but speaking about U.S. presidents, I think it's important to mention that the president, another U.S. president who had my praises in the book, at least as much as Ronald Reagan, was Harry Truman.
That's true.
And I think
that goes back.
It goes back, but I think it's his role in saving the world from communism has been undervalued in this country, because people just today they can't recognize the fact that he was not facing Vladimir Putin. Harry Truman was fighting Joseph Stalin, and when I hear the stories that Putin is so dangerous, you cannot, just go against him. I mean, they're fighting Stalin, and by the way, resurgent communist China, and just dealing with all these problems that Truman had to do in the 40s. I mean, that's
a level of totalitarianism beyond.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and he, by the way, he succeeded in creating institutions that were so important, like, NATO, Voice of America, CIA, so institutions that were fundamental for fighting the Cold War and winning the Cold War. Now, as for Reagan, and it's of course, I hear a lot of criticism saying Reagan was, it's a warmongering president. Now, my question is, how many American soldiers died in combat during Reagan presidency? It's just, I haven't counted, but it's just if you exclude terrorist attacks, in Libya or Lebanon, in combat, probably less than for any other president since World War II.
It's a good point that I never thought of.
Because Reagan had credibility. It's very important. That's what I want to see. It's not about sending your troops everywhere or just removing them. You have extremes like George W. Bush or Barack Obama. It's about making credible statements and threats. As for
Pussy
Riot, look, it's a story. It's a symbolic story. So it's
high visibility.
It's high visibility, and it's such a disproportionate punishment. 2 years in prison for 40 seconds of what? Just opening their mouths because it was all recorded there. So it was a demonstration of the fact that the Russian Orthodox Church was nothing else but the part of the Putin's regime. It's another KGB branch. So they could actually expose the cynicism and hypocrisy of Putin's games with religion. And again, that was a massive contribution to the recognition of the reality of Putin's
I guess you're saying also, if they could do this and create some visibility, think of what someone of larger stature could do if they made that statement.
It's about courage,
Yeah.
So they had courage to do that, and courage is often it's in deficit.
Václav Havel is the other.
Look, Václav Havel, he was elected the president of Czechoslovakia, and naturally he had no experience of governing the country, and I think it's not his dedication to human rights and again his beliefs in right and wrong, but it's also the way he handled the split of Czech and Slovaks. It was a velvet revolution, and which was followed by velvet divorce. So it's. And remember, it's not. It looks easy, but
it could have exploded into tremendous violence.
Yugoslavia. So Havel, believed. I think it's in humanity. In this, it's in our ability to solve all these problems. And I had few occasions of sitting with him, and I remember the last time we met was in the embassy, in Czech embassy in Moscow. There were a few other opposition activists, and he was already terminally ill. We all knew that. but he was, still interested in politics, and he could see the evil in Putin's. And we were there at this lunch, lectured by the Czech ambassador. That's okay. We know problems, but Putin, Russia, business, European Union, we have to geopolitics. I mean, there's all this nonsense. And you could see he was listening, and at one point he got so angry, and he threw the menu to the middle of the table and said, Ronald Reagan had to deal with Soviet leaders, discussing with them matters of war and peace, life and death, nuclear disarmament. But he never forgot to put a list of political prisoners in front of them.
Who do you see, and I guess I'm talking mostly in America, perhaps in the West in general, who you feel would be capable of dealing with Putin in the strategic way that he needs to be dealt with in order to put a stop, if in fact you feel it's not too late for that to happen?
No, it's not too late. I mean, the free world, it's the first time probably in history enjoys such a tremendous superiority economically and militarily. We still have huge resources. What we're lacking is a political will. And my intention of writing this book was to start a debate in the United States during this presidential cycle about the future of U.S. foreign policy. Because whether some people like it or not, United States plays a crucial role in defending the free world and defending the values that made us won the Cold War and made us, successful. I hope that this debate will help to restore the bipartisan foreign policy that's helped America throughout the years of the Cold War. I couldn't imagine just seeing the moment when the Democrats in the Senate, filibustered the debate about the Iranian deal. You can vote yes or no, but how can you stop debating these vital issues? I think there's so much to be done to restore the credibility of the United States and the Oval Office, and I can only hope that these debates and whoever wins this election will recognize that the next president of the United States must act decisively and must realize that even if people think that we are out of the war is not done with us. And we're dealing with the forces in the world like Putin, the Iranian mullahs, North Korean dictators, and other thugs and terrorists, that they will go after the United States because attacking America, defying America, makes them feel stronger in the eyes of their subjects.
Well, I want to thank you. I mean, I hope that whoever it is that comes to power will look to you or perhaps ask you some questions or some strategies that will help.
I would be delighted to
You seem impassioned and very engaged and disturbed by what's happening, and certainly I hope that we will see a better future and a better relationship
I also
with
hope, and
Russia.
I hope that this aura of isolationism, will evaporate, because it seems that all these crises, they are far away. So was Japan in 1941. So the Al-Qaeda training camps in 2001. The world is getting smaller. And just we have to recognize that, this is, America can't afford, to pretend that two giant oceans could protect it against the global threats. It's a global economy, it's a global finance, global trade, global business, global social exchange, so global terrorism.
You live with your family in New York now. You are self-exiled from Russia.
Self-exile is a little
Is that
bit
too strong?
Yeah, I think it's overstatement, because I had to leave Russia because I had no other choice.
Do you miss Russia?
Yes and no. It's I have my mother and my son in Moscow. I have many friends and relatives in Moscow. Though many of those who fought with me against Putin's regime, either behind bars or outside of Russia, also in exile, self-exile, as you said, or worse, like Boris Nemtsov, simply killed by the regime. Russian is my first language. I was born and raised, within Russian culture. So I'm not an ethnic Russian. So I'm half Armenian, half Jewish. But, it's Russian Empire, Soviet Union. It was just a melting pot. So that's why I could feel Russian, and I always, believed that, I belonged to the country. But if I wanted to stay active, or even stay alive, I had no other choice.
And New York is the next best place.
Yeah, it's happened to be that two of my kids were born in New York. Actually, the eldest daughter from the first marriage, she was taken to New York in the 90s. So now she just graduated from Barnard College in New York. So I have three kids out of four, in New York City. I have a lot of just friends there. Just my interest, it's like it's in publishing, in promoting chess activities. Kasparov Chess Foundation, sort of the main branch, is in the United States. So I feel comfortable, and I spend a lot of time traveling around the world. So I just, upon the insistence of my 9-year-old daughter, I recently counted the countries I visited, and I reached the number of 100.
Really? Well, that's impressive, but I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad that you've been here today with us. It's been a really fascinating interview. I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today at the Drexel interview.